Love this man. I don't care, even if he's not sitting here, I'd say. He's in his 14th season. 14th season as Dodgers play-by-play announcer, a man who I met back in 1996, and I walked into the ESPN newsroom. My fellow former SportsCenter compadre and Los Angeles Dodgers broadcaster, Charley. Steiner, good to see you, sir.
One of the really great things about this time of year, A,
yes,
my employer, the Dodgers are doing well.
They are.
B, last week I got a chance to talk with Dan on his radio show.
Yes.
And the last few days I got to see Boomer, Chris Berman, who was doing the Dodger Brave games on ESPN. So it's been like this reunion week, and it's wonderful to see you.
Do you mind? I'm right back at you. Do you mind if I ask you what do you and Berman talk about when you're like having
what?
Or...
Hey, what? we have little time to spend. We're getting ready for our respective games.
Sure.
And it's more, walking down memory lane. And it really is wonderful to see him. I got there in 88. And so we've known each other 30 years. It's very simple, much like with Dan and with you. You just pick up conversations where you left off. It's completely seamless and effortltless. And it was wonderful to see Boomer. Good. Great to talk to Dan. I told him first time, long time, which is what you generally say to a radio host.
You say that, to a radio host.
Yeah. And so for us, it's many time, long time.
Yeah, it is indeed. But when you first started, did people say first time, long time when they called into what?
Wow.
WOR or whatever you were on in New York City? Where were you?
That, relatively speaking, that's new. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
When the first time somebody actually said first time, long time, like, hey, great idea. but I don't remember. I didn't circle the day on the calendar.
Okay.
But it's been a while.
I love it. The Honda Insider Report, as we're going to get some quality and some information from Charley Steiner here prior to the NLCS. Why game one for Kershaw, do you think? Is a choice
because it's Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw is the heart and soul of this franchise. He's been here for a decade. And if there was any doubt about pitching game one, his performance the other night put all of that to rest. Ryu has been great. Bueller has been, off the charts. And Rich Hill is a very suitable number 4. Mm-hmm. So you go with the king.
I know. He did so well in game 2. I mean, it is silly, obviously. Dave Roberts must have every metric in front of him, and then he's got the gut of his experience for which he's won an award.
Look, one of the things about Dave, and I've said this really from the day he arrived, he is a very cerebral manager who has a great sense of the pulse of his clubhouse. He knows how to deal with the media as well as any manager I've been around. I've been around Joe Torre and many others who can handle the mic and handle the camera. This was an issue he simply did not need or want. And based on Clayton's last performance, and apparently he was a little torqued that he was number 2 and not number 1, he proved that he is still king of the hill. And what a better fallback position than having Ryu pitch game 2. And the other thing, dating back to my Yankee days, guess who pitched the second game of big series? Virtually everyone. Andy Pettitte. Why? Torre felt that either Cena or Clemens, if he won game 1, now they're up 2 if they trot Pettitte out. And more times than not, they were.
And plus,
if they lost the first one, now they're all even again. And so now you've got Ryu, who's got an ERA of under 2 as your number 2 guy, who's going to pitch twice. To me, it was just a natural thing to say and do.
Well, Pettitte also did really well on the road, right? I mean, so you got to get somebody that can also handle the crucible if you're starting for some reason a series on the road.
And much like Pettitte, Ryu's a grown-up. Been down the road before. He can handle all of this. So what's fascinating about this series, it seems to me, is that both teams are peaking at precisely the right time. Dodgers win 7 of their last 8 and outscored the opposition, 47-15, whatever the number was. Then you got Milwaukee. They won 11 straight, and they just beat up on Colorado. And the Rockies, to some degree, were victimized by the wild card game. That always unsettles a rotation. So you got two great teams peaking at the right time. This is going to be a wonderful series.
Charley Steiner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Prior to getting on a flight for Milwaukee, Game 1 is going to be on Fox coming up on Friday night, and then Saturday afternoon in Milwaukee for Game 2. So what do you think is the biggest issue going through Dave Roberts' mind, knowing how hot Milwaukee is and their pitching staff? What do you think is the biggest problem that's presented to the Dodgers?
I don't know that there's really a problem. You go back to Herman Edwards. You play to win the game. What I think, watching these two teams, it will be more imperative than usual to score early, especially because of Milwaukee's bullpen.
It's incredible.
Which may be the best.
That kid Hader is unbelievable.
Oh, and Jeffers is great. Mm-hmm. So I think the Dodgers want length out of their rotation. And if they can do that, then ideally or theoretically, they will have a lead. And I think that it'll be the Dodgers starters, their effectiveness, I think, against the effectiveness of the Brewer bullpen. And if the Dodgers don't allow the Brewer bullpen to get quality time, then they're in pretty good shape, scoring early.
Charley Steiner here on the Rich Eisen Show. How is Kenley Jansen? It does appear over his last couple of outings that the Jansen from last year is returned. Would you agree with that?
We'll all find out together. It's been a rugged year for Kenley, but securing the final out in Atlanta the other night was a big deal. And again, the nice thing now is disregard the previous 160-something games. They don't count anymore. Now it's a 7-game series, and Don Zimmer legendarily would tell Joe Torre, once you get to this point in the season, you win 1 inning at a time. Then you go to the next inning, and then by the end of the night, you've got a 9-inning tapestry. And I think, so if the Dodgers are able to get to him, why not?
It seems it's amazing you brought that up with Zimmer and what he said, just two old guys, old school guys saying something. It seems now, though, with the analytics world, that going from inning to inning means starting your bullpen and or making sure your starter doesn't see the lineup for a third straight time, regardless of score and regardless of pitch count. It seems that it's just gotten a little bit over the top. Yeah, skewed. What is your perspective on that?
I think a lot of it depends on how the team is constructed. And again, I think the Dodgers have a better rotation than Milwaukee has. I think their strength is the back end of their bullpen. And how you get to the 9th inning is dependent upon how you have pieced your team together. Look, if one of the reasons why the Dodgers beat Atlanta was that Kershaw went 7 or 8 innings.
He went 8, yeah.
And so did Ryu. And so if you're effective that way, then fine. I don't know that Craig Counsell is as confident in his rotation as Dave is in his. But he has every reason to be confident with his bullpen. At the end of the day, you just look at the numbers. How do you get there? The object of the game is really simple. Beat the other guy by at least a run. And how you do it.
And then you win. Right. I mean, we had Harold Reynolds on yesterday, and he said that with Dave Roberts and this Dodger lineup, that they essentially are all fungible with the exception of Justin Turner and Manny Machado. That those two guys go to the stadium every day knowing they're in. Everyone else looks at their phone, he says, to see if they're getting a text from management saying you're out today or you're in today.
I think it took a while in September for all of that to come together. Kudos to Andrew and Farhan, Andrew Friedman, Farhan Zaidi. They realized at the end of August it was going to be a 1-month sprint to the finish line. And then they went out and got David Freese. They had already gotten Machado and Ryan Madson. They had to beat Colorado, which they did by one game, game 163. So now, here we are into the postseason. David Freese had the big hit the other night, and Freese is a postseason hero. 2011 NLCS MVP and the World Series MVP. He knows the big situation. Matson came in the other night, bases loaded, 1 out, and retired the next 2, and that basically ended the game. And Machado is one of the top 5 or 10 talents in the game. So you've got these people who now, it took a while for them to understand how these interchangeable parts were going to work. And my sense is about the middle of September, finally they all kind of bought in. Okay, this is how it's going, this is how it's happening, and this is how ultimately it is working. And I think we're right. I don't think there was any one given day where the Dodgers suddenly turned on the switch and, okay, follow me to freedom, if I can drop that in.
You may.
But it was a gradual thing. And then about the middle of September, they had a 10-game road trip, 3 in Colorado, or was it Arizona? I forget now. 3 in Cincinnati, and finished up with 4. In St. Louis. And then after a Sunday night game, we had 3 with Colorado. It was in that period of time, a 10-game road trip, we won 6 out of 10. And then after the road trip in that Sunday night game, we swept Colorado 3 straight. At that point, I got the sense that, this team is really coagulating, coming together.
Charley Steiner here on the Rich Eisen Show in the Honda Insider Report. A few more minutes left with you, sir. You got a good Uecker story? Now that you're going to see him over the next several days, weeks, you've been around some of the all-time great ones. Charley?
He's the only one on earth who calls me Chazzy Boy. Chazzy Boy! I don't know why. But, again, he is one of the American treasures. He was a guest on Johnny Carson more than any other guest.
I heard that. He really was number one Bob Uecker, more than anybody else.
And he has natural comedic timing. And we had dinner a few years back in Milwaukee. Imagine that. And I asked him about it, and he said, when he was playing, he used to go to, Catch a Rising Star or whatever the comedy joints were in New York, and he would quietly do stand-up.
No way.
Yeah.
Just like open mic night, there's Bob Uecker.
Pretty much. Bob Uecker wasn't Bob Uecker yet.
Right.
But you sit with him, whether it's dinner, visiting in the booth for a few minutes, just hobnobbing. He is as naturally funny as any human being I've ever been around.
And it's a big moment for the Brewers, and he's doing interviews after the game too. I love seeing it. You could see he's really prideful about what's happening with the Brewers right now.
And so yes, he is the absolute hometown hero, and there's nothing not to love about Bob Uecker.
Yeah, and that'll be I'm looking forward to this NLCS. You taking on a flight tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
On the flight tomorrow. Okay. We just showed a Sports Center spot moments ago here of you with Christy Martin, the boxer, and you having some sort of love affair with her, if you will, from the Sports Center days.
Think of it as a docudrama.
It's amazing. I'm out of it for now. It being ESPN for, now 15 years. And I still get people thinking I'm on SportsCenter every day.
You and me both.
You get that all the time, right?
Still. When
was the last SportsCenter you did?
Late 2001. So that's 17 years.
Because I know towards the end of my tenure there, you were the voice of ESPN Radio Baseball and doing some...
I did some fights,
But
the
fights too. I took over for you when you stepped away from the SportsCenter fight. I did the SportsCenters after you're like, okay, I'm done with that. Been there, done that. I stepped in, and I was a little disappointed. I'll be very honest with you, because they stopped the you must wear a tuxedo for the SportsCenter hits.
God, I hated that.
I wanted it. What do you mean I don't get to wear a tuxedo on ESPN?
I felt like a valet. It was like, come on, this is a fight. But the last fight I did was Tyson Holyfield and The Bite. And I had wanted out for a long time. And so on this night, Tyson famously takes a chunk out of Holyfield's ear. And I looked into the camera. The last words I uttered in covering a fight for ESPN. Evander Holyfield and a portion of his right ear were rushed to the hospital tonight in separate cars. It's true.
And that was it. Back to you in the studio? That's it?
Good, thank you. Good night.
That's a mic drop. That's a walk-off.
That was it.
And
Thank you and good night.
And all holy heck had broken loose in Vegas, right? When you walk
Oh, this is summing up the entire evening. That was it. Oh, then the people were rioting in the streets. And I had wanted it off for about a year because I saw the future of the sport and the horizon was flat. And I had gone to our boss, Howard Katz, God bless him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Howard, I can't do this anymore. He said, give me one more year. We will find a substitute for you.
That's, by the way, I raised my right hand. That was me.
Sucker. And so, because I wanted to devote my time to baseball, because I felt like boxing had run its course. Mm-hmm. And I think history shows that it did. Occasionally there is a good fight now, but it is not on the caliber of those days.
Sure.
So on the Monday morning after a portion of his right ear were rushed to the hospital in separate cars, I walk into Howard's office in Bristol. And he said, don't say another word. You are free of your burden. On to baseball. I said, thank you.
And then I did Holyfield more too.
Aha.
And the fight where Henry Akinwande had to cancel because he had a case of hepatitis. So that's what you missed, Charlie.
It turned out
seer.
Akinwande was dyslexic and he couldn't spell his name.
It's probably true. Oh, man. Charley Steiner here on the Honda Insider Report, again, brought to you by the Honda Odyssey. It's the perfect minivan for any family man with available Magic Slide seats and cabin watch. It's never been easier to keep the peace when your kids get a little too out of hand, so be sure to visit your local Honda dealer today. Thank you for coming on, Charley Steiner.
Always great to see you.
You are the man. I would love to just have you on when you're done with the season and you have done whatever you need to do to wind down. Mm-hmm. Come on and just go straight memory lane with everything else.
Fine.
I'd love to do that.
All right. 2020, 21, we're good.
Okay. That's when you're going to wind down?
Yeah.
That's when you wind down from everything?
As soon as the season's over. Happy.
Okay, very good. That's Charley Steiner. Safe travels, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And I will. I think I'm bringing the kids out to the stadium on Monday night.
Bring
Susie
your kiddies, bring your wife.
I am, in fact... I guaranteed to have the time of my life.
There you go.
To use that's the old New York Mets
Meet
song.
the Mets.
That's
Meet
the
Mets.
Mets. Oh, my gosh.
Because when you M-E-E-T, meet the Mets.
Right. But you're not allowed to sing that song from being from Boston.
Yeah, but I just know it. I have a lot of Met fan friends.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, you just botched the song, by the way. I'm just you're aware of that.
Okay.
Good to see you, Charley Steiner.
As always,
Oh,
pal.
you got it.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.